Hey friends, it's me, Libby. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm a physical therapist and a mind-body transformation coach, and I help people with pain, complex health stuff, and the exhaustion of midlife feel more at home in their bodies. Around here, we believe in partnership, not perfection. I'm not your doctor, and this show is not medical advice. It's practical, encouraging, and real-life tested. Today, I want to talk about pain, faith, and your nervous system, and why your beliefs aren't just mindset fluff, but literal chemistry that we can dial pain and our physical experiences in our body up and down. I'm going to tell you about my very, very bad morning this weekend, a philosophy talk, and my client Angie. And then we'll layer the neuroscience underneath all of it. So picture this. Yesterday morning was rough. Crying my coffee, yell at my husband, throw a piece of celery at my daughter. I made sure I hit her in the shoulder. But rough. And when things get that bad, I did what I always do. I went for a walk. So I'm walking, feeling awful, feeling angry at everybody, including myself, doom scrolling my phone, looking for some kind of motivation to get me out of my funk. And I see that the Des Moines Lyceum movement is hosting a talk on faith by an Iowa State University philosopher. And in true impulsive Libby style fashion, I literally turned around, went home, got on my bike, and went downtown to hear the talk. No plan. I guess this is what we're doing now. So it was at Big Grove, it was at a brewery on a Saturday morning, and I got to this room full of people, and I didn't know what to expect, so I was really excited that there were so many people there. And the speaker is talking about a series on faith, hope, and love as three cardinal virtues. And as he's talking, one of the stories he mentioned was this concept of faith literally getting you the last little bit of the way when you're jumping, like if you're faced with a chasm and you have to jump over it, chasm, and you have to jump over it, that faith will get you the last bit. And I'm thinking, yes, that is what's needed when our body hurts, when we're exhausted, when our emotions are crazy. At the end of the story, I'm going to share a little bit about my work, and I'm going to let you know that I think faith is necessary for healing. And I shared this at the end of the talk with the philosopher, and he looked at me and he's like, faith in what? Or faith in who? Such a good question. So on the spot, I answered, faith in ourselves, our own power to heal and feel good in our bodies. And I still believe that. But I've still been thinking about this talk. And as I've sat with it, I do think that it's faith in ourselves, but it's also faith in your healthcare provider, faith in science, faith in the body's capacity to change. And for some, it's faith in God or a higher power. And it's not necessarily one or the other. Often it's this web of deep trust that is faith that's what helps us feel better. And so now here's where we start moving into the neuroscience of faith for healing. Because so faith in everyday language is what our brain experiences as expectation, safety, and meaning. And when we have expectation, safety, and meaning, our pain can change. So let's translate faith into what your nervous system actually does. When you have faith that this isn't going to last forever, my body can change, people know how to help me, I'm not broken, your brain treats it as prediction. Your brain is able to predict that relief is possible, that healing will happen, even when we don't have a specific diagnosis. And I think having a diagnosis can be a double-edged sword. Very often having a diagnosis feels like relief at first, like there's a name for it, people know what's happening to me, and then we start to get hopeful. And then we start to feel better because we have some hope. But sometimes having a diagnosis also creates some expectation of what the thing is, which after that initial hope fades away, the symptoms come back. But when we can stay with faith, we can stay with hope, we can stay with deep belief, our predictions live largely in our prefrontal cortex, like actually part of our brain. And this is a part of our brain that does planning, perspective taking, and meaning making. This region, okay, so here's the sciencey, neuroscience-y part. It talks to the deeper structures in our brain that are involved in pain, like the anterior cingulate cortex and the periaqueductal gray matter, which help turn the volume of the pain up or down. When your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that's involved in decision making, expects less pain and more safety, it actually sends signals down your spinal cord and into your body. Then your body releases its own opioids. Like our body has its own opioid system, and dopamine, the neurotransmitter we're all searching for, and that actually changes the pain signals. This is clearly seen in placebo studies. When people believe they're getting real pain relief, their brains actually release the chemicals that make us feel better. This is not fake medicine. This is actual medicine. Even when the treatment doesn't have anything medicine in it. That's not just in your head. That's belief. That's faith, which changes the neurotransmitters and changes how your body experiences symptoms. So now let's bring in emotions, hormones, and inflammation. When you have a sense of faith, whether that's I got this, whether that's I trust my care team, I have a deep faith in a higher power, I believe in the healing power of medicine, something bigger than me is helping to hold me up, you're more likely to experience hope, calm, and connection instead of despair. And these emotional states aren't just vibes, they're biology. Fear, hopelessness, constant stress. And I am not even just talking about the fear and the hopelessness and the constant stress of being sick. I am talking about repressed emotions from when we were kids, from when we were told to rub some dirt in it when we were hurting. All of that also creates symptoms in our body. All of that changes how our body experiences inflammation. So it's not just about beliefs about the current state, and in a lot of cases, it's not related to beliefs about their current state of wellness or sickness or pain. It's related to old stuff. It's related to the fight you had with your spouse, or your belief that you're not fitting in somewhere, or your anger about work. It doesn't necessarily have to do anything. These emotions don't have to do anything with your actual physical symptoms. But when you are experiencing physical symptoms and you have faith in your provider, in the healing power of yourself, those inflammatory signals go down, and all of that repressed emotional stuff isn't experienced as danger anymore. So here's where it's really encouraging, if you ask me. I think it can be frustrating, but it's also encouraging. We've got a lot of science that tells us that people with more positive affect, like contentment, joy, awe, there's actually lower levels of inflammatory chemicals in their bloodstream. How we develop those feelings is for another time, but keep that in mind, that faith results in more hope. Hope actually changes inflammation. Because when we have inflammation, our nerves are more sensitized, pain signals are amplified. What our brain experiences as safe or unsafe is exaggerated. Everything feels louder and more overwhelming when we don't have faith. So when we have faith, stress and inflammation, our nervous system is regulated, and they indirectly dial down the sensitivity of our pain system. So faith isn't magic. It's a powerful and effective and real context that shapes emotions, hormones, inflammation, and pain perception, and our ability to heal. So let's get back to the clinic and tell the story of Angie and why I see coming to see me or any other healthcare provider a big act of faith. You're not just going to try physical therapy with me or try coaching with me. You're putting your faith into me as a provider, but also faith into your own body. And here's kind of one of the clinchers. Faith without action is just words. There's even a Bible verse that I don't know exactly what it is, but I believe it's faith without action is dead. Faith on its own, positive affect on its own, does change your neurochemistry, but without taking actions, you are only getting part of the picture. So when you drive to my office, or you open a Zoom account to meet with your provider, or do these weird little exercises that I send you, your brain registers, we're investing energy here because change is possible. It's belief, embodied. Okay, so here's about Angie. So Angie and I have been working together for, I bet, 10 years. And about a year and a half ago, when I was really starting to research the mental health aspects of chronic pain, I gently mentioned to her the concept of repressed negative emotions and how they can affect her pain experience. Because before that, for 10 years, sessions were kind of like whack-a-mole. Like we're treating this over here and treating that over here, but never really we were never able to really settle into a cohesive treatment. So she had a shoulder flare over there, hip back here, a lot of like foot and leg stuff. And she'd always get some relief. But then something else would pop up, and it was a cycle. You might know that cycle. So about a year and a half ago, and when I mentioned those repressed negative emotions, it was like opening an actual valve, like a real floodgate. She cried through most of she cried through most of the next visits. Not in a falling apart kind of way, but a finally letting this out kind of way. Have you been there? Like, do you know, I know you know what it feels like to finally feel like it's almost scary to let all that out. So together we worked with her, we worked together and she found a therapist. I also think you know about how hard it can be to find a person that you feel like is really listening to you and really hearing you. Because she had an adult diagnosis of autism. And so there was a lot of childhood trauma wrapped up in that. And finding the right kind of caregivers who really thoroughly listen without rushing to fix can be a real challenge. So over the last 18 months, doing pain coaching with me, mental health therapy with a therapist she really trusts, our work is really looking different now. We're meeting monthly, we do pain coaching, we do the regular physical therapy stuff with dry needling and hands-on therapy, and she does her exercises. We retrain her movement with stretching, specific dry needling when it's helpful. And at the last visit, really staying anchored to what her nervous system is experiencing, instead of coming in with her list that she'd been thinking about of the things that she wanted to work with, she really was just like, my back's kind of tough. It's kind of sore. There's like a twinge. And there was a little bit extra. And we talked about a tough situation she'd been having. But that was it. And both of us recognized the surprise in that. Since we started talking about repressed emotions and really talking about the old stuff from childhood and getting that out of her system, she's really feeling better. On our last session, she did cry, but it was just for a little bit, and it was more like a release, not overwhelm, and she still left smiling. Is she totally pain-free? No, it doesn't bother her as much. It's less intrusive. It's not as scary. It's shows up and then it goes away. Now here's the faith underneath Angie's change. When I sent her a draft of the story, because I wanted to make sure that she felt okay with me sharing it, she agreed that it's been faith in me that kept her coming back. Because without that faith, she might have stopped coming. She would have stopped coming a long time ago. She might have felt attacked or dismissed when I mentioned how emotions could be contributing to her symptoms. She might have interpreted me saying repress negative emotions. She might have interpreted that as it's all in your head, because wording this is a tricky thing. But instead, because she trusted me, because she had deep trust in me, because of years of me listening and really trying to help, her defenses were able to soften, and her brain was able to consider a new story about what was going on. And even if she didn't always tie emotions to her physical symptoms, doing the work in the background really turned down the knob. And it's neuroscience. In addition to having faith in myself and faith in her medical provider, she's a wellness professional herself, so she really also has deep faith in hands-on care and movement as a healing. And so she's never stopped taking action. She's never stopped trying. She accepted that she has these symptoms, but she was never willing to stop trying and feeling better. And that's action, and that's the important second part of faith. That's huge. But here's the key. Here's the real key to everything. I think what really has changed in the last 18 months, as we talk about emotions and processing and all the neurosciences that happen, is that she started to have faith in herself. Not just in the healing power of her body, but in her ability to handle her emotions. Her ability to look at the really, really hard stuff, at the dark corners of her brain that feel like if we actually turn on the light, we might just die because it hurts so much. And I know you have that. You have those dark corners of your mind that you don't want to shine a light on because they're just too hard to face. She's developed faith in herself. And remember, when we zoom back out from Angie's story into the science, that kind of self-trust and emotional safety is exactly what makes our brain's pain networks regulate. Self-trust is what creates healthier neurotransmitter patterns. It changes inflammation. Faith equals safety. Safety equals new patterns in our brain. And that means a different pain experience. So I don't know where you are in your journey, but a lot of people who come to me, they don't have the faith yet. They've been dismissed by medical providers that they fully believed in, or the help that they got didn't make a difference. They're told, this is just how it is now. Well, suck it up. You just have to learn to deal with it. Have a glass of wine. Or they've tried a million different things that didn't fix them. So if that's you, here's something I say a lot. If you don't have the faith yet, you can borrow mine. Because I have faith in your power to feel better in your body. I have faith in your ability to turn on the light in the dark corners of your mind and take a look at the things that are making your nervous system feel like things aren't safe around here. And if you don't have that, all you have to do is be curious. Over time, as our relationship develops, we explore your repressed or avoided emotions. We refer you to therapy if we think that's important. And we retrain the movements, and we work on manual therapy, and we talk, and we treat things when they come up, and we use pain science and mental health science and coaching. as well as just regulation things like breathing and meditations and like concentrated exercises. And over time, you move from, Libby says this might help, to, oh, it's actually changing. And that's when your own faith starts to boot up, when you actually start to see results, when you actually start to feel that relationship and that connection, is when you really start to heal. Now, what about if your faith is misplaced? Here's a tricky part that I don't want to gloss over. You've had faith in things before that didn't work, right? So what if our faith and our actions are misplaced or at odds? Like having faith that surgery is the only answer and having had it gone bad, or it's not necessary. Having faith, you just rub some dirt on it. If I'll just push harder and I'll ignore it, it'll go away. Or having faith in a provider that keeps you or says things that have you feeling dependent or terrified instead of informed, empowered, and really feeling like they're your partner instead of your healer. The science does not say that faith was always good. It says that context and meaning really matter. Because if your belief system are keeping your nervous system in danger mode with constant failure, shame, fear, helplessness, medical trauma is a real thing, then faith can actually feed more stress, more inflammation, and more pain. So it's worth asking, is my faith helping me keep me safe, feel safer or more trapped? No judgment, just information. So let's bring it back to my really bad day. After that talk, honestly, my day kind of stayed rough. I wish I could say that the philosophy workshop made me feel better instantly. It did not. So later that night, when I was lying awake, I had terrible cramps. I was replaying the scenes of, a lot of the stories that I have been telling myself this week. My brain was doing the 2 a.m. thing, catastrophizing, spiraling. And what finally helped me settle and go back to sleep was this simple thought: I have faith that I will feel better soon. It's not going to always feel like this. And the next day, it really did feel different. It's the kind of thing that changed my hormones, that allowed my brain to calm down, and that had a physiological change on my body. Drip by drip, day by day, moment by moment, things change. Little by slowly, as Nicole Sachs always says. So, if you're thinking this sounds pretty good, but you're not sure where to start, remember first to borrow my faith, because I know it's going to get better, and I know it feels scary. But with education and exercises and support, your brain begins to build the experiences that help make belief easier. Because at the end of the day, you can't just tell your nervous system a story to help it feel safer. It has to actually experience that safety for itself. It has to know that your emotions aren't dangerous or scary. You can't just say, I'm safe one time and have it feel safe. That to me is faith in action. So thanks for hanging out with me today. Let me nerd out about philosophy and neurotransmitters and spirituality and science and pain relief. If you want support building this kind of grounded faith in your own healing, especially if you feel stuck in long-term pain, overwhelm, exhaustion, all sorts of symptoms that are unexplainable or don't seem to fit together, you can borrow my faith. And that's a huge part in what I do with our one-on-one work. Until next time, you may have just enough faith to carry you across the next little chasm. And may your nervous system feel a tiny bit safer because of it. See you next time.